Welcome to the What Happens Next YouTube channel. What we're aiming to do with this channel is share content designed to make sure that you're supported through whatever's next in your life. And we'd love to continue to do that. I've got a favour to ask today, and what I'd ask you to do is just subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it really helps us deliver really good quality content on a consistent basis. Thank you, and let's go on to the interview. Welcome to What Happens Next, the show dedicated to thinking about, with a bit more nuance than just the money, there's some of the decisions we want to make in the next chapter of our lives. I've spent 18 months now thinking about, in a desire to help my clients, but also just have better conversations, what the next chapter of our lives might look like when we hit our 50s and 60s and we think about making positive change in our lives. And I think one of the things that comes up both in my future life and also in the conversations that I have with clients is the desire to travel more. And it's really interesting. We put these weekly videos out on conversations about purpose and financial well-being and physical well-being, and our most popular video at the minute is on travel, and we've never had an expert guest come on and talk to us about travel. So I'm really pleased today to be hosting Andrew West, who's going to talk to us a bit not only about travel but also how working in the next chapter of our lives can fit in with that nomadic travel linked lifestyle. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm really excited about this conversation, mate. And I know all about you, but for the purposes of our audience, tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, certainly. So I spent 16 and a half years as a police officer. I was got to police inspector in Leicestershire. Unfortunately fell ill, but that worked out right. That was in 2000, so I ended up leaving, and then for that period since then I've ran businesses of various types and various kinds in health and all sorts of things, and then more recently in the travel side of business.
Love that. And that I'm assuming because of health, that retirement from the police was a bit of a one that was put upon you as opposed to one you asked for. But you had to negotiate some change in that life. How was that, negotiating that change?
Tough to start with. There's a bit of a thing. If you've got any ex-police officers and probably other services that listen to it, they will know the same thing. There's one of the things. It's a really strange thing. Once you get past your 2-year probation, you only ever get asked one question in the police: how long have you got to go? That's always the question that people ask. And it used to, I mean, I know it's changed a bit now, but it used to be you did 30 years. You knew you were doing it. And I knew people particularly from 10 years to go that were counting down. They could tell you how many days they'd got to go. That was it. So I'd always presumed I'd do 30 years. That was it. I knew when I was, I joined in the April of 2000, and in the April of 2030, I thought was me. Sorry, 1984 I joined, not 2000. 2000 I left. So 1984 I joined. I thought in the 2014 on the April, that'd be it. My 30 years done. And of course, when you first join, I was 21 when I joined. The thought of retiring at 51 just seemed like the most amazing thing going. It was, and then because you think everybody's old, and then you get there and realise that you're not.
So I'm on that cusp at the minute. I'm 48, and I think that old concept of learn, earn, and then retire is a bit broken. I don't think it works for most people nowadays.
No.
How has your perspective changed in terms of the way that you saw these chapters you're living now today compared to when you were 21?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's just, I couldn't have envisaged this life at all. There's no way I could have even thought. I mean, I love my life. I love what we do, the traveling that we do and the way that we are fortunate enough to be able to make work fit around life,
Yeah,
if you like. And we work hard to do that, to
yeah,
make it happen. And it's the communication that we say to everybody, this is what we do. But to know that we could do that was a possibility. At that time at 21, I'd probably been on holiday to about 2 countries, and that was about as good as it got.
yeah, yeah. No, I love that. And I think we are a bit more open-minded now about the options that work provides us and the flexibility we've got. But I think a lot of people are really cautious about that sort of nomadic existence and how it's different. So help me understand, if we fast forward and you said, right, okay, I'm gonna spend a decent chunk of my time traveling.
Yep.
How did you make that change? What was the journey towards that, and how does it look now compared to right at the start?
Okay, so I would say it really started was about 6 or 7 years ago. I got a business partner that was in my business at that time, and he'd really helped us grow it. And he kept asking me what it was that I wanted to do with my life, or what I want to do with my business. Actually, he wanted to know what role I wanted. So one day I remember going in and just saying to him, "I tell you what I'd really like to do. I don't want to be here." I said, "And while I'm still young enough, I want to go and travel." And he said, "Well, let's
Yeah,
set the business up to do that." So that's what we did. And to start with, it really was just the idea of sort of, I'd never done the backpacking as a young person. I hadn't, I'd gone pretty much straight into work as soon as I left school. So I'd never done it. So the idea to start with was, well, let's sort of go backpacking. And I remember we packed everything into this really tiny, tiny, it wasn't even a full-size backpack. And because seen these YouTube videos about how you could do it, put a load of stuff in and started going around Southeast Asia. And it was an eye opener. It really was about, first of all, once you got your head round it, after the initial shock, jet lag and things, how easy it was to travel. And obviously, fortunately nowadays with the internet, it makes it so easy. You can always be researchers, always be
yeah,
looking. And places and people are just so open to you doing it. It's yeah, great. I mean, obviously we've had adventures on the way and things have not always gone right, but it's very easy to sort it. I look back to the original explorers, if you like, the people who went off and travelled and did backpacking and things when there wasn't internet and other stuff like that, and I think they're wow, because I
yeah,
I like I like my I'm not a race across the world. I do like my phone with me, and I like to know things.
yeah, yeah. No, that's it. Having access to that information. I mean, the bit when I've done a fair bit of traveling over the past few years, the most valuable thing, having only been able to barely speak English, is Google Translate. In Japan, that I think might have been my savior. Google Translate and a little box that gave me internet access while I was over there was the two things that were really useful. The interesting point you make, though, I think, is that element of life by design. Because when I think about the conversation you had with your business partner, you had to actually design the life that enabled you to do the traveling, right? So, what were the component parts of that?
Yeah. So obviously it was making sure you got, first of all, the freedom, the free time to be able to
Yeah,
do it, and that things were in place. Now, I mean, things have changed since then. I mean, I now run my businesses when I'm away. At that time, I was setting it up so that I probably only needed to do one call a week.
yeah,
Now it's not. I wherever I am, I set up. I have my meetings. They're scheduled. I work the time difference out and just do it. But at that time, that was setting up that, obviously making sure, finance wise, have you got enough money in the bank and stuff like that. But I mean, I always use Revolut as my travel. There's several others out there, but I use that, so I know that I've got money. It's easy to exchange.
yeah.
um and then it's just, and again, this is even easier now than it's ever been. It's obviously always checking up on visas and those sort of things, and they are important, because there's been the odd one where there's been sort of if there's ever been an issue, it's been a visa issue of
Interesting.
I've never not been able to get into a country, but there's been odd times where it's suddenly, oh God, I didn't know I needed to apply for that 2 weeks before. It's
Dodge.
some sometimes of those things that you just have to you know, they're the little bits that you need to plan. But most of it, I don't like the term, but you can wing it. You really
Yeah,
can, and just get by. And that's part of what we enjoy with travel. Quite a lot of our travel when we go, we will change as we're on the road when we chat to people, and people
yeah.
say, "Have you been here? Have you gone
Oh,
there?"
interesting.
And that has led to some of the best experiences we've ever had.
Tell me a story about where you had one plan to go somewhere and then you really changed your
Yeah,
mind.
I mean, it's a bit more difficult to get there now, but we were in Vietnam, beautiful country, and it was a really rainy day, and we went for breakfast, and there was only one other couple, and the gentleman, he suffered with Tourette's quite badly, so we hadn't really communicated much. They kept themselves to themselves, but they were the only people in the restaurant, so we went and chatted to them. We're talking away, sharing holiday experiences, and they said, "Oh, one of the best things we've ever done, we went into Myanmar, that used to be Burma." He said, "We went there, they have this national balloon festival," and he said, "It's just wow." So being me, we're chatting the conversation, I'm on my phone, I'm looking. I said, "It's next week, I can get a flight tomorrow, shall we go?" And that was it. We booked and we went. And this festival, I've never been. When he talk hot air balloons, this is not hot air balloons in the vision we see. They are the same size as them, but they're made out of paper. And then they
Yeah.
stick flames underneath. And then underneath that, they put a huge firework display. And they
Amazing.
light this firework, they light this box. And so, first of all, they light the balloon, get the balloon going up with heat. And then these fireworks, and for 15, 20 minutes, fireworks are firing down. Well, we managed to persuade our driver. We were in the main arena with it. I've got a video of me looking up with fireworks shooting down by my shoulders. It's the most exhilarating thing ever
Oh,
done in my life. It was
and
wow.
and that
And
element, maintaining that element of randomness when you travel is interesting, isn't it? Because I think
yes,
a lot of people assume that you've got to plan it all out, map it all out, know where you're going. But I suppose part of the adventure is the spontaneity, right? The ability to turn
yes.
around and go, yeah, yeah. How do you get the balance right between knowing where you're going and spontaneous when you're traveling?
I I always like to get the first bit sorted, so that, because I think jet lag and stuff can cause you a problem. So I try to make sure that whenever we're getting to somewhere, that I know there's Uber or something that I can get to my accommodation. I have my accommodation booked, and I
Yeah,
know that I've got transport sorted, because I think when you've done long haul, and you draw and you get there, you just don't want
last
to be
well,
sun.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's my bit. Once we've done that, we find that in general, we do a few days in a place. We try and give ourselves enough time. We get to somewhere, we have at least a whole day exploring, and we've got the next night, and so we're booked for 2 nights, if you like.
yeah,
If we then go, "Wow, this place is amazing," we extend.
yeah,
Or we go, "No, okay, we've done this," and you can never say, we've been, and of course, traveling is such a personal thing. So you talk to somebody, and I might tell you one city, and you might go, "Oh, wow, that's amazing, I love that city," and we'll go, "Oh, didn't think that much
yeah,
of it, to be honest."
yeah,
And so and we've stayed in some really, quite, in some size, obscure places, where the coach has dropped us off, and we've gone, "Wow, we love it," just because of
yeah.
the energy and the atmosphere of the local people.
Yeah, yeah,
Some places
that's
are like that.
interesting. That's so interesting. How long did you have this sort of lifestyle until you knew it was definitely for you? Was it instant, or was it one of those things that took a while to get your head around?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was pretty much instant, but it's a really strange one. Since Gillian, my wife, and we've been together. We've travelled the whole time we've been together. We've been together now. It's just over 7 years.
Yeah,
And we do say we are as bad as each other. So we will so we will get to a point where we're somewhere and go, "I think we've had enough now." So we will go back, and then we'll go, "Oh, I think that's time we settle. Let's have a bit of time here." And then usually within 2 to 3 weeks, one of us is
yeah,
going,
if you
"Have you
please.
s- have you seen this?" And we laugh about it now, because we don't know which one of it's going to be, but
You know
one of
what?
us,
It's so It's so funny, Andrew, because Kazi and I are exactly the same, right? So I was meant to. I'm off to Ireland in a couple of weeks, and then I was meant to climb Kilimanjaro,
Yes.
um, and I can't now because they needed a minimum of 8 people to do the expedition, and for those particular dates, they only had three. So it's been deferred. I'm going to do it next year. All good, but means that I've got a space in my diary where
Yeah.
there's nothing because I thought I was going to be in Africa, and it looks like a bit of a vacuum. And Cassie and I looked at each other and went, "What are we filling that with?"
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
thankfully, it's half term for Sophie as well, so it will be a trip.
Brilliant.
But actually, I think you're right. All of the evidence points to the fact that spending money on experiences and memories you can share with people you love and like is one of the ways to combine happiness and money in the best way possible. So
Yeah.
100% is that element. But I'm sure there's challenges, ups and downs when it comes to nomadic living. So what have you found really easy? And what have you struggled a bit more with the sort of life you lead where you're traveling a lot?
Okay. I think the in general, the communication, a bit like you said, with a bit of Google Translate, with a bit that Gillian loves to learn, a bit of language wherever we go, and other elements of it, I think that's proved easier than I thought that it would. And so, but the one we do find a bit more difficult is trying to eat healthy while we're traveling. It's so easy not to. And unfortunately, again, this is a bit more of an age thing. We find that then that disturbs our toilet habits, and we
Yeah,
don't like that. And so we end up trying to find a juice bar or trying to find a salad or trying to find something. And in some countries, that's easier than others. And if we are a length of time somewhere, we will often go and buy a juicer or a blender, and then we'll go to a local market and we'll make, and that helps us
yeah,
through that to us is probably one of the biggest challenges that we find, because if you if you start to get uncomfortable, you don't enjoy the travel so much.
yeah, no, 100%. And I suppose the challenge you've got with being on the road all the time is how to maintain some of the positive habits in our life and a sense of routine. So when you're traveling all the time and routine often can go out the window, how do you maintain some of those positive habits? What have you got in place to make sure, for example, exercise is a big part of my
Yeah.
ongoing positive habit, and nutrition, as you say. So how do you get the balance right between having an amazingly adventurous lifestyle and maintaining those positive habits?
Yeah, I mean, exercise, you say, I mean, we love to walk, so we walk. But again, there's odd times when I mean, we go back to Cambodia but this week because we have a charity, we have a school there we support. When we get there, walking, their streets aren't really built for walking. So we often end up, we'll join a gym, even on a month's membership or something like that, just so that
Yeah,
we can go and keep that up, because you soon notice it if you're not. And then, as I say, we will find out where the local market is. We will see what the local fruit and veg and things are there. Um, we we actually, as much as we can, particularly when we're on longer stays, we will stay more in apartment type places and things like that, and we'll eat in quite a bit. We will so we'll prepare our own food rather than eating out all the time. So that's
yeah, yeah.
that's the way we try and keep up those things.
Love that. So I know we've spoke already about you combining work and travel.
Yeah.
How do you get the balance right between having the time to do what you need to, but also combining work in the mix?
Yeah, it is a balance, but it's a case of setting it. What we say to everybody who we work with in the business is that we travel rather than we holiday, and we do sort of emphasize the difference between. So in other words, we will have times when we are working. So I'll use Cambodia as an example because that's quite a good one. I mean, it's 6 hour time difference between here and there. So we will get up in the morning, do our own thing, but literally from, what would that be, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, from 2 o'clock until at least 6 o'clock, we will just will work. We'll set up an office. We will work. We'll take calls. If we need to do them a bit later, then we'll also do that as well. You know, we've taken calls right in the middle of the night if that's what we need to do. We don't do it all the time, but we do that so that it fits to
The
to
lifestyle.
yeah, to do both. And we're both really happy. We have no issue with that at all. We don't think anything. Yeah, I don't really think anything of it. It's a case of that's when we're working, and that's when we do. And then, you know, we sort of we try and have a rule if we can. We try and always try and take Friday afternoon off, and work and sort of go from there. But also in our businesses, where we try and give that off as well as much as we possibly can, so that we and we encourage as many people that work with us. We encourage them to travel. I mean, because to me, it's just the best thing you can ever do.
Well, I think the other thing is as well is the opportunity travel gives you to not only refresh yourself but learn loads about the world and generate new ideas. And it's a really for me it's been a massive opportunity just to get perspective on life. What's travel brought to you the most, do you think, in terms of your view of the world?
That pretty much we're all similar. And we have similar worries, similar concerns, and similar things. I think there's an element of that. I think that I still can't help it. I mean, as I say, we've now done 69 countries, and I still I still have preconceived ideas that I wish I didn't have. That I go to somewhere and you go, "Wow, I just did not expect this."
Yeah,
So I think so. Each time it opens my eyes, and also, of course, then when you see things happening on the news in other parts of the world, you go, "I've been there. I've
yeah,
met those people. I have a more of an understanding of it's not just some natural disaster going on at blur. It's actually that's real. That's it,
yeah.
so that whole
It
connection.
humanizes, right? It humanizes
Yes.
people. It's not other, it's
Yeah.
actually the people in the place that I visited.
And the other side, Chris, is the fact that we are so fortunate, and we don't realize that we are, in the fact that, you know, we have a passport that pretty much allows us to travel anywhere. And you go to countries where people say, I would love to travel, and you say, oh, you know, can you? And no, no, I'm not allowed. You know, I remember being in Vietnam. We were talking to a driver there, and he said, "Oh, you know," we said to him, he said, "Can you travel?" And he says, "We're allowed to travel to countries that the government think that are worse off than us, that we won't leave and go to." So he said, "We can go to Cambodia, or we can go to, you know," and he named a few places he could go, but we can't go to this one. We can't go to there because they think that we will leave. And you go, wow, you know, we don't have that thought, do we? We just go, I want to go there,
Yeah.
and make it happen, you know. And
Yeah.
apart from maybe a few odd restrictions, our passport allows us to go anywhere, and we're very fortunate.
So I didn't realise that until a few years ago. So I'd always taken the ability to travel virtually anywhere for granted. And then at Savello, we had a lady who worked for us, Mansi, who was an Indian student. And she loved to travel, and she was in the UK for a couple of years working for us. And used to come in on a sort of few days off. You used to go to Paris or Germany, and she, for every European country, she had to get a visa. And
Yeah,
like, just to jump on the Eurostar and go to Europe, we consider that easy. But for
yeah,
her, it was actually a bit of work. She had to go to
yeah,
London, get the visa, and yeah, that element of like gratitude. But I think also, and I'm trying to make sure my girls know this as well. I think often we take the luxuries we've got in our life completely for granted. And I remember being in Cape Town a few years ago, and to get to Table Bay where we were staying, there was miles and miles and miles of shanty towns. And actually, just to be grateful that you've been born into a country where a lot of the worries that people have been born in those places, and that's complete luck, right? Born into those places, we take those luxuries for granted. So I think travel really gives you a fresh perspective, and that, for me anyway, allows you to be more grateful about the opportunities you've got. I completely agree about that. Now, a lot of the people we speak to on What Happens Next are in their 50s and 60s. They're thinking they've had a potentially fairly conventional career, but now they want more time. They've got more time on their hands, potentially. They're thinking about travel. If somebody's thinking about having a bit more time and where to travel to, what's the excuse me? What's the things they should think about to know where to start?
Okay, it's interesting time because we're finding more and more people are coming to now because they want experiences rather than just holidays.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's wonderful, and that can go from the safari to but also even deeper than that. People want to go and they want to explore more. I think that if they've never been, if somebody's never been to Southeast Asia, I often sort of say that to me is there, or India is a really good one. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit, but actually not, but still be comfortable if you want to be, you can do that in both of those places. They will push, India particularly will push your senses, but actually, but there's also, if you want, there's also luxury, and there's also you can do both. There's also so many places and so many people now, and this is what we put together, where we put packages together for people where you might want to go the first time, and you might go, you know what, I love what you're saying, Andrew, but that's not, and I've had this said many times, this isn't for me. I want to know that somebody's going to meet me at the airport. I want to know that somebody's going to help me get into there. You say the language is easy, but I don't believe you. These sort of things. And that's great because you can put together now packages that match that. If you are totally, I just want to get on and do it, brilliant. But if you're not, you can do it, and you can have those safety and protections in place, but they can still take you into places and to see things that you're never ever going to get to do otherwise, and you're going to get to experience. You can have meals in places you never thought that you would. I mean, I had a meal once on a trip, and I was literally in the slums of Jakarta, and it was one of the most eye-opening things. It was an amazing meal that I had, meeting the family there, and they showed us, they were very proud because they got an upstairs to their house, and we thought, right. And he sort of said, oh yeah, but we have to live here half the year, he said, because of the floods and the state of it. And we said, well, how do you get to the shops? And he says, well, I'll swim to the shops. And you look at the water and go, wow. But that house was spotless, the food was amazing, the people were wonderful, and I remember just coming out of there again, like we're saying, felt so grateful, and thought, what a wow experience. Just was amazing. And that was part of a trip that somebody had organized that. And so there's, it's, but we also, I wouldn't have walked into those slums on my own. There's no way that I would have done it. So you can protect yourself and give yourself an element of safety, but still explore.
Love that. And how much your sort of role when you're building these itineraries is about challenging people a bit, saying, like, let's add some luxury, but let's also add some unique experiences, and how do we get the balance right between the two?
Yeah, I mean, that comes from talking to people. That's the best bit about this job is chatting to people, seeing what they've done before, seeing what they'd like to do, but then offering them something that they may not have done. And again, having visited so many places, it really does help. So you can say something, look, while you're there, I would really consider this. And when you can share, and even sometimes often share photos or share
Yeah,
story, then you can help people, and you judge it according to them. And what we're starting to discover is people will go and do it, and then they'll come back and often say, that was brilliant, next time I want to. And because once you've tried it and you've done a bit, you've had a
exactly.
great experience, then you'll push yourself on. It's, I think, to push yourself out your comfort zone is good, but you also, you want to do it to your level. That's the thing with it.
Yeah, yeah. But then the level, I mean, my experience is the level changes, doesn't it? Because once you've done
Yes.
one thing, you turn around and go, I survived.
Yes.
I went to the Amazon rainforest last year and stayed with the community in there for a few days. And that element was like, you know, if you'd asked me at 21 whether I'd ever do that in my life, I never would have recognized it. But then you turn around and go, that is a unique experience. What other unique experiences? And it's really interesting when we're doing I'm finishing off the What Happens Next book at the minute, and I'm talking about the role unique experiences and in particular novelty plays in their lives, because as we know, as we get a bit older, time tends to go a bit faster, and one of the things that's shown to slow time down a bit, which is our finite commodity, right? We know we're going to run out of time at some
Yeah, yeah.
point. um the bit that slows time down a bit is just that experience excuse me, of the novel. You know, what are we going to do that's new, that opens our mind, that generates curiosity, and allows us to look and go, that was sort of a place worth going to. Talk to me specifically about your experiences in Southeast Asia. Somebody's thinking about a trip. Where would you recommend they start?
Right, depends. If you want the safe but the beautiful, you go to Thailand now. I mean, Thailand is I mean, you go to Bangkok, it is pretty much like any city in the world. In fact, probably even getting better. Some one of the best cities in the world. But you can still go out and go and explore. Then if you go and say, we love Cambodia, that's why we've got the charity there. The Cambodian people are probably some of the nicest we've ever met, and as a country has suffered so much problems and still
Yeah,
is. And so you when you go there, you know that your money is really helping people. So we love that. We ended up last year, we went to Sri Lanka. That's now my number one place that I say to
I
anybody,
love Sri Lanka.
go.
I
It's
love Sri Lanka.
just wow. I quite like train travel, and the train journey there that you do from Ella to Kandy. They always say it's one of the best in the world, and you sort of go, yeah, but I've heard that before. It was wow. We upgraded to first class because that gave you a sit on toilet, which was quite nice. Gave you air conditioning. Didn't care about the air conditioning because actually the doors are open between the carriages, and I went and sat. And I must have sat for most of the journey just looking out the carriage door,
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
just amazing. So yeah, you've got so many different places there that you can go, but they are very accessible now. That's the thing. They're all the big airlines fly to them, and there's tours and all sorts of things available that you can do. So it's in Cambodia when we go, our charity is near Siem Reap, and obviously you've got Angkor Wat, and Angkor Wat is meant to be, again, I don't know how they get these lists, but it's the number one place to see the sunrise in the world, apparently. And again, it's stunning. It's
Yeah,
just, it takes your breath away. So it's
I love that. I love that.
yeah.
What place in the world did you not expect to love but really do?
That's a really interesting one, Chris. It's only just happened. With the travel business, Gillian, my wife, she wanted to go on one of these expedition cruises, and she chose the Arctic. Now, I'm not particularly a cold weather person, I have to say. And when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, all right. She said, no, no, no. If we're going to tell people about this, we need to experience it. We get on it, and we go and end up going across the Denmark Strait, going to Greenland, and just wow. Just
Yeah.
I have never seen such beauty in cold, seeing icebergs, seeing glaciers, and it was an expedition. I mean, but and there was people in their 80s, 90s doing this expedition, and that were there. So it wasn't. But you to get off the boat, it couldn't go into dock. You had to get on what's a Zodiac, which is like a
Yeah.
rubber dinghy, and they take you to land. We saw polar bears, we saw Arctic foxes. Every day there was talks from people there who were experts. And I actually even made a joke about. I actually started posting my iceberg of the day because I was falling in love with these icebergs. You cannot, and somebody summed it up so well because I couldn't, and they said to me, "Didn't it make you feel small?" And I said, "That sums it up." I did. I felt so small when you're there and you see the size of all of this and all this space. And we went to a community as well there and saw the people living there. And again, you just go, wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, that
I
took my breath away.
Weirdly, I had a conversation with a client of mine yesterday, and she'd last year went to Antarctica on
Right.
a expedition, and similar sort of thing. Got on the dinghies, got to see the penguins, did like all this amazing stuff,
Well,
and
that's on the list, Chris, because we did the polar plunge there in the Arctic. So we jumped
ooh,
into the water there, but
how
they
long
give
are you had to stay in the water?
Oh, I don't know, about 30 seconds. It was all
Yeah.
right. It's okay. It was an amazing experience. And then, and so, yeah, we did that. But they're very clever because they give you a badge and it actually says that you've done the Arctic polar
You got to do
plunge.
the Antarctica. Yeah, I mean, on my list of things to do, I need to do I've done the London Marathon. I've done Ride London, which is 103
Yeah,
mile
I've
ride.
done both of those. Yeah, I've done them.
I've got to do the Serpentine swim. And the
Ah,
challenge that I've got is that my wife's a cold water swimmer off the Essex coast. I'm not keen on cold water swimming. Jumping in and then coming out, I'm cool with. But spending an elongated period of time, I don't know whether I'd want to do that. But yeah, I mean, but your point, and we've talked about this quite a lot on what happens next, because I think often when people perceive retirement, they see it as a place just to do the things that they love to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. But I think what that ignores is that we need purpose in our lives. So we need stuff to get up in the morning for. So we
yeah,
need the hedonic well-being. We need the eudaimonic well-being. What we get up in the morning to do. And then the element that doesn't get spoken about, and we had a really great guy who we interviewed about a year ago on What Happens Next, a guy called John Dunkley, who talked about this a lot, this charonic well-being. And that is, how do we experience awe? And
right.
what was interesting is some people get that through going to church and being part of church communities. And I said to John, where do you I'm not religious, so I don't see that God thing as a way to experience that. Where do you get from it as somebody who's not non-religious? And he went, I get it in a field with 80,000 electronic dance fans dancing, because I feel very insignificant but very connected at the same time.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
actually, when you think about that iceberg experience, that's exactly the same, isn't it? I'm small, but look at this amazing world.
And that was also the difference of the trip because I was taking photos on my iPhone. That was it. So there's a polar bear in the distance. So I've got a white spot that I can say to somebody, "That's a polar bear," and they'll probably go, "Yeah, all right."
They've got to squint to see whether it is or not.
But the guy next door to me, he's got his camera, and on that boat, nearly everybody shared all their pictures. So you
Oh,
get from the trip, and there's also a professional photographer on there as well that's taken. You get everything. So you can, we got back, and so he was able to show me photos, that he'd taken the polar bear where it got its tongue out, and he said, "Did you know that the polar bear got a blue tongue?" And I'm there thinking, well, I was lucky to see really if it got a head, let alone anything.
I
But it
love
was
that.
it was a shared experience, and I don't think I've done many trips that I would say is as shared as that. That was
Yeah, I
what
love
made
that.
it great.
What I'm really curious about though, because you mentioned that experience of awe. What other parts of the world have you been to where you've experienced the same feeling in a not the same, but in a similar way?
Oh, it's so many, really, so many. I mean, we're talking about Thailand. I remember flight. We'd been went right at the top to Chiang Rai, and not many people get to there. We were crossing the border going into Laos because you can do a great river trip down in Laos. Sorry, it's Laos, and you can do a great river trip there. So we went up to Chiang Rai, and as we were flying in on the plane, we'd gone from Bangkok to get there. There was this amazing Buddha. Now you can get a bit budded out in Thailand. There are so many beautiful, amazing ones, and we go and see a few, and then we go, yeah, okay. But we remember going and seeing this one as we come in the plane and thinking, I've never even heard, I've not seen this. So as soon as we landed, we asked somebody, and they said, and this was something. You had to have. You could go in it. You had to get in a lift to go up to the top of it. It's white and on the mountain, and again, you just went. This is just
Yeah,
unbelievable, and obviously places like the Taj Mahal, you go there, and again, you just can't get you see it on the telly, you can't get the size of it and the story behind it, and it's so many of those things, and particularly also, as I say, when there's festivals, when there is local festivals on, and you get to see people just enjoying their life and the things that they do. That again is so many things. It really is, but they're the
yeah,
ones I.
love it. Absolutely love it. And I love the phrase "put it out." I might steal that. I've never heard of that before. It's quite put it
Yeah.
out, put it out, put it out is a great phrase. It's so interesting. One of the things that we talk about on What Happens Next is the fact that the traditional way of looking at retirement is learn and stop. I don't think that's a particularly healthy way to live. You've shown that you can actually have all these adventures and continue to maintain a sense of work in your life. I'm really curious, where does work fit into your overall well-being, and how do you see it moving forward in the future?
It's quite surprised me because I've ended up through circumstances taking back control of one of my businesses that I'd sort of my son and his husband were running, and they decided they didn't want to, and so I sort of I've got 16 employees in that business, and there's a couple of other bits with it, and I must admit I was a bit. I hadn't done anything in it for 7 8 years, and I was sort of, oh, I don't know now, I don't know what to do, and I started talking to people, and I realized I did know people if I didn't know the business. And it's brought an element to me that I just love. I love the community and trying to help people and trying to help the on their journey as well. And I now I can't see now a time of not doing both. I've got no desire to not do that. As long as I can, and as long as I've got my health and that I feel that I've got something to offer, it just it's boosted my well-being more than ever. Travel on its own was wonderful. Travel combined with still doing things and still being feeling useful and feeling
Yeah,
part of something
it's
and
that
part
eudaimonia well-being, isn't it? Like that purpose bit.
it gave something I didn't know I was missing. It really did. So yeah.
Interesting, really interesting. Now, when I look at your story, Andrew, and this is why I was so excited to have you on as a guest, I see certain what happens next moment. So I see the transition you made from that career you thought you were going to have 30 years and was cut short. I see the starting businesses and then traveling and then going back into the business. What have you learned? And every single transition, every single change was a what happens next moment. What have you learned along that journey that you could share with our audience to help them navigate the changes that are coming up in their life?
Yeah, great question. I've had to change as a person as this has gone along, and I've had to learn that I haven't got as much control as I thought or I'd like to have, because I think generally we do. So I've had to work on that. We do a lot. We did a road trip this summer where we went, and again, beautiful. We've never, I think you have, Chris, because we've talked. But ended up going across to Serbia. I mean, the road between Serbia and Montenegro is one of the most beautiful roads I've
Yeah,
ever driven. But while we were driving, and we put off doing a European road trip because we just thought, oh God, amount of driving and stuff, and actually we loved it, and we started listening to podcasts and we started listening to audiobooks, and that's opened up a whole new world to us now of stuff and things that we are studying, and we are constant now doing that and working on ourselves of being more and more accepting about what life is bringing along, and that to go with it. And the more we do that, the better it just seems to make it, because things change all the time, and I've had to learn to get better at that, and that's, yeah, that's the big
yeah.
thing.
I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I love Stoic philosophy, and there's an element in Stoic philosophy where I, there's an element in Stoic philosophy where they talk about recognize the fact that you can't control everything, focus on what you can control, and let everything else go on. You can influence it potentially, but actually, the bits you can control, which are primarily your own thoughts and actions, are the bits that you, and actually becoming a bit more relaxed about what you can't control is probably the way to go. And what
Yeah,
was really weird is I've been speaking to Cassie about this, Andrew, for years, because actually it's had a real positive impact on my life. But Stoic philosophy always seems a bit dry to her, and I get it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what does some Greek bloke millennia ago know about my life on the Essex coast in 2025? And then I bought her a book by a lady called Mel Robbins called
yeah,
Leicester.
yeah, I've read that. Yeah,
And I haven't read it yet. But then, Cassie, I bought it. Funny enough, where were we going? Where were we going? We were going to, we had a family wedding in Cyprus. At the airport, I said, well, look, I've heard good things about this book. Um, uh, I'll buy it for you. So I popped into WH Smith's, bought the book. And she hasn't stopped talking about it since. And I've been saying to her, basically stoicism, but communicated in a way that's really applied to the actual world. And actually, I think that's part of the secret, isn't it? Focus on what you can control, understand that you can control a bit, but not much,
yeah,
and just navigate. Like, happiness is just not worrying about the rest too much and just navigating
very
around it,
much.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
interesting. What was the podcast or audio book that, when you were doing your road trip, resonate the most?
Yeah, it started off. Most people have heard of The Secret from Rhonda Byrne, but she's written another book called The Ultimate Secret, and we started listening to that. It's quite hard going to get to start with, because it's talking constantly about that we are not our thoughts, we are not even our body, we are actually the awareness behind it, and it's starting to work and focus on that. That had an immediate one. In fact, I took it to the level we just kept repeating it. We just would go, okay, let's go back on it. Let's go back again and do it. And yeah, that's taken us on a quite a different journey, because we've now started to look into some of the people that she quoted in that book to see where they get theirs. It's something that for me personally I now have to keep working on. If I even leave it for a week or so, I can feel myself very easily get dragged back to many of my old ways, and I
Yeah.
actually like living in the way there of being aware of my thoughts and the and as the more you focus on them, the more you realize that your thoughts can take you on some pretty dark journeys if you let them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate that. I'm really curious to know about your charity, Andrew. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, it happened by chance. On an organised trip we were on, and we just finished. It was in Thailand. He said, "Where are you going next?" We said, "Oh, we're going across to Cambodia." And he said, "Oh, well, I built a school over there." He said, "But I never get to see it. If you get a chance, can you go and have a look?" So we went round there. And as I say, the people of Cambodia are just amazing. And this is it's out from Siem Reap. Now the cities in Cambodia are getting better, but you go out. So this is about 40 minutes out, but the road is horrendous to get to it. When we first got involved with it, there was 30 children in the school, and it had a part-time teacher, and people came from local villages, and so we sort of chatted what they needed, and they wanted somebody who could it's an English school, so it's a voluntary school. Children come. We've now got 130 children in it. They travel up to 7 miles. We try and buy. One of the things we fundraise for, we buy bicycles so they can get there. And they learn English while they're there, and they see it as a way of helping them towards their future. So it's just wonderful, and they we learn so every time I go there, we learn so much from them, to see them and to see the things that they enjoy, to see them. It's the rainy season, see at the moment, and to see them playing in the rain like kids should,
Yeah,
and laughing and giggling and they're desperate to learn. And there's also funny bits. I mean, my wife is from Yorkshire, and when we do a bit of volunteer teaching while we're there, and it still makes me laugh when she does one class and I do another, and to hear the children start saying numbers in a Yorkshire accent, it just makes me giggle every
love that.
time.
Love that.
But yeah, and what we do is we fund nearly half of it. We fund ourselves anyway, and then we've got other people who help us. They sponsor a child, pay us £30 a month, and we've got a group of people that do that. When we go over this time, we're going there on Monday because we know that there'll be a project come out of this because we need to extend the school,
Right.
and so we know we're going there with ready and prepared for this what we've got to raise next. So
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's great.
No, I love it. Absolutely love it. So I've loved the conversation today, and thanks for mentioning the charity. And you've talked about the two businesses you've got. Number one's the travel business. Can you let everybody know where people can find out a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we have a good name. As soon as we say it, you'll probably start singing. But it's called Pack Before You Go Go. Bit based on the Wham song. So you can find. We've got a website. It's not brilliant, the website, because we don't do a lot on the website. The Facebook page we put a lot into. So there's always things going on there. All the contact details are on there, and it doesn't cost anything to use somebody like us. It's but we can help, and we love talking travel. We just love it. Love people sharing. So many of the people now who use us, they send us photos. I can live vicariously. I can live vicariously through your travel. I can live vicariously through other people's travel.
Yeah.
So it's a passion, as you can tell.
What's the most unusual travel request you've ever had?
Oh God, that's a good one. No, you may have caught me with that one. I'm trying to think. It's usually comes round when somebody wants to try and fit in some kind of either concert or sporting event as well as
But
part of
it's
what we're
time
doing.
bound. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to so and so, and I've seen that this person's on there, and can you get me tickets for that as well? And that can be really good fun to try and do that, and we're pretty successful. I mean, we have a great our business is based. We're franchised through Hayes, so it gives us access to 450 odd suppliers and a hell of a lot of knowledge. So it is brilliant that if we don't know, we usually find somebody that
There's a
does. So
network
it's,
there of people who can get it. I mean, it's
yeah.
funny. The one thing I didn't do when I was in Japan was go and see sumo live because it wasn't in the right
Right.
So I've got to go back now.
Yeah.
And not that I needed an excuse because it was a country I loved, but
Have you
yeah,
seen? Have you seen on that, Chris? Just very in Japan, they've had to put a warning out because the Australians are going there so much. They're not trying to stop people going there, but it's a bit like you were saying about that. They're trying to encourage people to go more off the beaten track because the cities are now getting so full, apparently, with Australian tourists, and they
well, I
say
think
when you go there, go and explore more.
Well, I think certainly. I mean, when Charlotte and I went to my oldest daughter, we did Tokyo, Kyoto, and Fuji. I remember reading something that was in 2019. I remember Andrew reading something when we came back, where, and it's a real shame to read this because actually everything we've spoken about travel and having some respect for locals when you go and get like just respecting the environment. I know that in Kyoto there was an issue with the geishas and
Yeah,
the interference, and actually that can ruin it for everybody, right?
you
If
can.
people are not respectful, that people actually live in these places and have their own traditions and communities.
Yeah.
Had we made sure that we are responsible travelers, you think?
Again, I think that comes a lot of that comes you to do your research beforehand, and to be aware. I think it really is, and you say I've seen both sides of it. I've seen so much that's been great, but I've also seen places. I remember being on a tour once where one of the things was, you don't show the soles of your feet because that's offensive. And we were in this vehicle, and this guy was sticking his feet up in the air, was up there, and we were all telling him, and he was just ignoring everything, and it just, the driver said he didn't mind, but it just didn't seem
Yeah,
right, and
yeah,
it's, we all have got to have a responsibility for that, and we've got to have a responsibility for taking care of our environment and things as we're going. It's something we all must, take our responsibility for.
100%. Andrew, I've loved our chat today. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope as you're watching this, you've had bucket loads of inspiration about your next travel journey. Hopefully it's been useful, and we'll see you next time on What Happens Next.